All right, so welcome back to the Champ of Champions NFL tournament. This is the ultimate what if battle to determine the greatest Super Bowl champion of all time. So, for those of you who are just tuning in, here is a quick refresher. We took the 59 Super Bowl winning teams, seeded them based on their SRS rating, and that's their point differential adjusted for strength of schedule, and then we simulated every matchup using WhatIfSports.com to see who comes out on top. Now, each game was run as a full simulation with historical rosters, real coaching tendencies, and then even a neutral field adjustment. Now, the second round is complete, and here's how today's video is going to break down. First, we're going to recap the round two results for each region. Then, we're going to highlight the top performances, so the best offensive teams, the closest games, and then, yes, maybe even the biggest choke jobs. And then finally, we're going to preview round three, where the battles only get tougher, and then the field will tighten to 8 teams. So let's get into the video. All right, so let's start in the North region in the recap of the second round. We're going to start with that first matchup. It's going to be the 0-2 Bucks versus the 91 Redskins. And the 0-2 Bucks, they squeaked past the 91 Redskins in a gritty Cotton Bowl clash, 13-10. Brad Johnson earned player of the game honors, leading two key scoring drives, including a 26-yard strike to Ken Dilger. Washington tied it late, but Martin Gramatica nailed a cold-blooded 53-yard game winner with under 2 minutes left. Tampa's defense held strong, forcing 4 3-and-outs in dominating time of possession. It was clutch. It was a low-scoring battle between these two hard-nosed champions, but the Bucks will be pulling off the upset and knocking off the 1 seed. Moving on to the next matchup, it's going to be the 21 Rams versus the 09 Saints. And what a comeback here. The 21 Rams stormed back from down 14 in the fourth to stun the 09 Saints in overtime, 27-24. Sony Michel racked up 112 yards and a huge 26-yard touchdown, while Darrell Henderson, he tied it with 8 seconds left. But Matt Gay drills a 47-yarder in overtime to seal it, in a wild finish in the Cotton Bowl sends the Saints home in heartbreaking fashion. Let's move on to the next matchup. It's going to be the 93 Cowboys versus the 84 49ers. And the 84 Niners, they just showed up and showed out, knocking off the powerhouse 93 Cowboys 27-17. Montana threw for 2 touchdowns, including a beautiful strike to Dwight Clark. And then Wendell Tyler ran wild with 125 yards. And then he had a 25-yard dagger late. Emmitt Smith, he did all he could with 145 yards, but the 49ers' balance and clutch defense proved too much in the battle of legends. The 84 49ers will be moving on. What about the final matchup in the North? And that's going to be the 12 Ravens versus the 17 Eagles. And the 12 Ravens came in focused and methodical, controlling the game from start to finish in a 23-10 win over the 17 Eagles. Ray Rice set the tone early and finished with 86 yards and a touchdown, while Flacco managed the game with a key strike to Anquan Boldin. Philly's run game flashed a little bit. Jay Ajayi broke 100 yards, but their quarterback combined for just 8 completions. Baltimore's defense bent but never broke, punching their ticket into round 3. Now, let's move on to some of the awards for round 2 in the North. We're going to talk about the highest scoring team first, and we have a tie. We have the 21 Rams and the 1984 49ers, both of them dropping 27 points. The Rams came roaring back from 14 points, fourth quarter surge, and then an overtime winner in against the Saints, so that was huge for them. The 49ers, they were led by Montana and Wendell Tyler, and they delivered a well-rounded beatdown of the 93 Cowboys with 27 smooth points and a clash of titans. If you want to talk about the most dominant defense in this round, you guessed it. It's the 2012 Ravens. They suffocated the high-powered Eagles, holding them to just 10 points and 8 completions combined. Classic bend but don't break Baltimore football, methodical, physical, and mistake free. What about the closest game? Well, that's going to go to the 0-2 Bucks and the 91 Redskins. It's a brutal defensive slugfest decided by a 53-yard field goal in the final 2 minutes. It was tightly contested basically from start to finish, and this was an old school football at its finest. Now, the biggest upset. We're going to stay there in that game. It's the 0-2 Bucks over the 91 Redskins. The number 1 overall seed basically falls in the tournament. Tampa's defense locked in, and Brad Johnson did just enough to take down the top dog in a gritty, grinded-out battle. Now, most surprising elimination. Going to stick with the same theme here. It's going to be the 91 Redskins. The number 1 overall seed gone in round 2, basically after a first round bye. So these guys were built for a deep run, but Tampa had other plans, and now one of the all-time greatest teams is heading home. And for the last award, you get your popcorn ready moment. It's going to be the Rams' fourth quarter comeback and overtime win versus the Saints. They were down 14 late, a game-tying touchdown with only 8 seconds left, and then a walk-off 47-yarder in overtime. No question, this was the moment of this bracket. All right, so here is the North preview for round three, and we're down to only four in the North, and now it gets personal. First up, it's going to be the battle of Clash and Flash. The 0-2 Tampa Bay Buccaneers versus the 21 Los Angeles Rams. Tampa has survived two grinded out wars with elite defense and late game clutch, but now they face the flashy, fast paced Rams who just pulled off a double overtime stunner. Can the Bucs drag the Rams into the mud, or will LA's firepower finally melt the steel trap of a defense? Now, let's talk about the heavyweight showdown between the 84 49ers and the 12 Ravens. It's going to be Montana's crew. They have been rolling basically with precision, but they haven't faced a defense as physical as Baltimore's. On the other side, though, Flacco and Ray Rice will need to be perfect because the 49ers team just doesn't flinch late. It's going to be a chess match between two all-time great rosters. It's going to be that West Coast rhythm versus that AFC North grit. All right, so let's go to the West region and we're going to recap the second round. We're going to start with that first matchup. It was the 2019 Chiefs versus the 75 Steelers, and the 75 Steelers, they survived a furious late rally by Mahomes in the 2019 Chiefs, holding on for a gritty 21-19 win. Franco Harris was unstoppable, rushing for 210 yards and a touchdown to earn player of the game honors. Kansas City scored two fourth quarter touchdowns, but Pittsburgh's physical ground game and hard-nosed defense led by Jack Lambert's two sacks were just too much. Old school toughness beats that modern day flash in this round two thriller. Now, let's jump to the 92 Cowboys versus the 94 49ers. And this was a heavyweight clash between those two 90s dynasties, right? It was the 94 49ers who edged out the 92 Cowboys in an overtime thriller, 20-17. Steve Young led a late drive in regulation and another in overtime, capped by a Doug Bryan fourth field goal to end the game. Emmitt Smith was a workhorse, rushing for 135 yards and a score, earning player of the game honors despite a loss. It was a chess match all the way, but the Niners made one more move than the Cowboys. Now, let's jump over to another Cowboys matchup here, and it's going to be the 71 Cowboys taking on the 69 Chiefs. And the 69 Chiefs, they used that grit, timely defense, and a clutch performance from Otis Taylor to take down Roger Staubach's 71 Cowboys 17-7. KC jumped ahead early and iced it late with 10 unanswered in the fourth, while Dwayne Thomas and Walt Garrison gashed the Chiefs on the ground. Dallas couldn't convert on key downs or finish drives, missing two long field goals. So the defending AFL champs do march on. And the final matchup, we got the 2016 Patriots taking on the 1966 Packers. The 66 Packers, they pulled off a vintage comeback to stun the 16 Patriots, 21-17. Jim Taylor punched in the game winner late, capping a two-touchdown day and earning player of the game. While Brady and Edelman, they looked sharp early, but Green Bay's defense, led by Ray Nitschke's clutch pick, slammed the door in the fourth. Old school grit beats modern precision in a Cotton Bowl classic, and that seems to be the theme here when it comes to that old school grit style. Now, let's move on to the awards for the West in its second round performances. We're going to start with the highest scoring teams, and we got another tie here. It's going to be the 75 Steelers and the 66 Packers. Both of them dropped 21 points each, so this was a region in the bracket where it was very low scoring. Franco Harris he ran through the Chiefs like a runaway truck, while Jim Taylor powered in two touchdowns to cap the Pack's comeback. It was two classic power run offenses lit up the scoreboard and punched their ticket to round three. Now, talking about the most dominant defense, it was the 69 Chiefs. They held the 71 Cowboys to just 7 points. They shut them out in the second half and then forced multiple key stops, including two missed field goals. That was huge for KC and that great defense. Now, we're talking about the closest game. It was the 94 49ers and the 92 Cowboys. It was a 20-17 overtime game. Two Titans went blow for blow before Steve Young's late game heroics and Doug Bryan's leg sealed it in overtime. So, a chess match with a sudden death checkmate. The game between the 19 Chiefs and 75 Steelers may have had a small margin of victory, but this matchup had more fireworks and the element of an extra frame. So that's the reason why we selected that one. There was no biggest upset, so it was basically all chalk moved on. So we are moving on to most surprising elimination. That would be the 92 Dallas Cowboys. I think the triplets are headed home, and that's not necessarily good for this bracket of viewership because there's a lot of Cowboys fans. And despite that 135 yards from Emmitt Smith, Dallas couldn't finish off the Niners in overtime, and it's basically a top-tier dynasty was eliminated earlier than anyone expected. So this was the Cowboys' best Super Bowl winning team according to Pro Football Reference's SRS number, but they will be going home early, and it will be before the third round. Now, your Grandstand Sports Day to get your popcorn ready moment. For us, it was the Kansas City Chiefs' fourth quarter rally versus the Steelers. Remember, the rally didn't actually get completed, but Mahomes nearly pulled off the miracle. He was down late. He engineered two rapid touchdown drives, but Pittsburgh's defense held the line when it mattered most. This means that all Kansas City Patrick Mahomes led Super Bowl winners have now been eliminated out of this tournament. Now, let's move on to the West Round 3 preview. These will be the matchups going forward for the West, and the West is bringing the pain with two absolute brawls that are coming your way. This is more the old school, I would say, region of the bracket. And first up, it's the black and gold showdown between the 75 Steelers and the 94 49ers. This one's got that old school Steel versus West Coast flash. Franco Harris and the Steel Curtain look to drag this game into the trenches, but Steve Young, Jerry Rice, and that Niners finesse offense just keep finding ways to win. One team punches you in the mouth, the other slices you with precision. We cannot wait for that matchup. Then it's going to be a battle of throwbacks. We got the 69 Chiefs versus 66 Packers. It's two vintage Titans, and they're going to be colliding. Otis Taylor and Len Dawson have been methodical for Kansas City, while Bart Starr and Jim Taylor just shocked Brady in the 2016 Pats. So this one will be decided in the trenches where legends are born. It's going to be that AFL pride versus Lombardi's legacy. Who will keep the dream alive? All right, so let's get to the East portion of the bracket. We're going to recover the round two recap here. We're going to start with the first game. It's going to be the 98 Broncos versus the 85 Bears. Guess what, ladies and gentlemen? That 98 Broncos outpaced the iconic 85 Bears in a shootout for the ages, winning 34-27. Terrell Davis ran wild for 220 yards and two scores, including a stunning 79-yard dash. Chicago had a huge second quarter, even taking the lead with a punt return touchdown, but Elway and Rod Smith answered late. The Bears' defense bent, and this time it broke a thriller at the Cotton Bowl as Denver now knocks off the second seed in the tournament. Let's move on to the next matchup. We had the 97 Broncos versus the 14 Patriots, and this was a battle between Elway's 97 Broncos and Brady's 14 Patriots. It was New England who pulled off a gutsy 29-24 win. Terrell Davis racked up 165 yards and a score, but Shane Vereen stole the spotlight with two explosive touchdown runs. Brady didn't need to throw a touchdown. Gostkowski's leg and Blount's late punch-in sealed it. Denver's final touchdown came too late, and the Pats survive and advance. Since we're talking about the Pats, let's talk about the 0-3 Pats versus 79 Steelers. And the Steel Curtain held just long enough. The 79 Steelers jumped out to a 17-0 lead behind big touchdown runs from Sidney Thornton and Franco Harris, and then they held off a furious fourth quarter comeback from Tom Brady and the 0-3 Patriots. Brady tossed two late touchdowns, but it was just too little, too late. Pittsburgh survives a nail biter 17-14 and moves on. Who will they be playing? Well, let's look at the matchup between the 24 Eagles and the 13 Seahawks. And it was beast mode bullying his way to another classic. Marshawn Lynch ran in two touchdowns, and the 13 Seahawks defense kept the 24 Eagles grounded all day. Jalen Hurts connected with Jahan Dotson for a spark in the third, but Seattle clamped down late. Hoshkin nailed two 50-yarders, and the Legion of Boom sealed a 20-7 win at the Cotton Bowl and will be moving on. Now, we have the East second round best performances or awards, however you want to look at it. And who was the highest scoring team? It's going to be the 98 Denver Broncos. They dropped 34 points. Terrell Davis went full beast mode with 220 rushing yards and 79-yard touchdown, helping the Broncos put up the most points any team in basically in the bracket and against the legendary 85 Bears defense nonetheless. So that's huge there, and it's kind of surprising. If you want to talk about the most dominant defense, especially in this portion of the bracket, it's not the 85 Bears. It's going to be the 13 Seahawks. The Legion of Boom did what they had to do best, right? They bullied the Eagles into submission. Seattle allowed just one touchdown and balled up Jalen Hurts and company for a dominant 20-7 win. That's a good feather in the cap for them moving on. Closest game, though, is going to be that 0-3 Patriots and 79 Steelers. Tom Brady almost pulled off a signature comeback, but the Steel Curtain held. Two late fourth quarter touchdowns made it tense, but Pittsburgh escaped with the narrowest of wins here in this portion of the bracket. Biggest upset, I think it's pretty obvious here, right? No one saw this one coming. The iconic 85 Bears basically got gashed for 34 points and couldn't contain Terrell Davis. Elway outdueled the Chicago D and left one of the top seeded legends out in the second round. I will have to say, though, the 98 Terrell Davis is the leader in the clubhouse when it comes to awarding an MVP for this tournament so far. He has gone crazy. so far. Next would be the most surprising elimination. Most surprising elimination, we're keeping it there. It's going to be the 85 Bears, right? The fan favorite, the all time defense, gone in the second round after a first round bye. It wasn't just a loss, it was the manner of it. 34 points allowed and outplayed by Denver in every phrase. That is shocking. And now, if you're talking about Grandstand Sports Day to get your popcorn ready moment, it's going to be the Terrell Davis 79-yard touchdown run. A lightning bolt in the cotton bowl is basically what we would call it. Davis exploded untouched through the vaunted Bears defense and galloped 79 yards to the house, a run that shattered expectations and broke the game wide open. Now, let's get into the preview for the East, and that preview is going to be for the round three, and the East is really heating up. We have four Titans colliding, and only two are going to survive. We're going to start off with that first matchup. It's the 98 Broncos taking on the 14 Patriots. You got Terrell Davis basically just dropping 220 yards on the 85 Bears, but now comes, I'm not going to say the true test, but it's Belichick's 2014 defense, right? And Brady at his cold-blooded best. Always crew has momentum, but New England has the pedigree. It's going to be that brute force versus that surgical precision. Who's going to come out on top? Well, whoever comes out on top will be meeting the winner in this matchup, and it's the 79 Steelers versus the 2013 Seahawks. It's that old school meets new era. It's the Steel Curtain faces beast mode and the Legion of Boom in a physical slugfest. Franco Harris and Marshawn Lynch might decide this one without saying a word, just punishing run after punishing run. This is going to get nasty, and it's going to get nasty fast. All right, so let's recap the South in the second round scores and final statistics from this preview. And we're going to start with the 2000 Ravens against the 96 Packers. And guess what? Another top seed getting knocked off. The 2000 Ravens did what they always do, grind you down and beat you ugly. Jamal Lewis ripped off 31-yard touchdown run and piled up 108 yards, while Matt Stover drilled two bombs from 49 and 50 yards out. Brett Favre and the 96 Packers moved the ball but couldn't crack the end zone. Dwayne Stark's pick and Baltimore's punishing D iced a 13-6 win in the Cotton Bowl. It's the classic Ravens football, right? Now let's move to the 88 49ers versus the 89 Niners. And the student beat the master in the Battle of Joe Montana's. The 88 49ers stormed back from a first quarter deficit behind Roger Craig's monster day. He had 146 rushing yards and three touchdowns, including back-to-back daggers in the final 90 seconds of the game. While the 89 version of Montana had the cleaner stat sheet, the 88 team controlled the ground game in the fourth quarter, pulling off a 24-10 upset and shocking one of the tournament favorites. Now, let's move on to the '08 Steelers versus the '99 Rams. The greatest show on turf outlasts the Steel Curtain 2.0 in a tactical chess match here. It was field goal after field goal until the fourth quarter. After Santonio Holmes gave Pittsburgh a 13-9 lead, Kurt Warner answers with a touchdown, and then the Rams poured it down with a safety and two late kicks. Warner's precision, 5 field goals from Jeff Wilkins, and a clutch defense sealed it 24-13 and sent the '08 Steelers packing. Speaking of the Steelers, we got the '05 team now taking on the 1973 Dolphins, and the '73 Dolphins showed why their ground and pound style still wins ugly games. Larry Zonka ripped through Pittsburgh's front for 104 yards, while Bob Greasley's timely strikes highlighted Jim Mandich's touchdown. This gave Miami just enough breathing room. The Steelers' offense sputtered all day, managing only a lone field goal, and in the end, Miami's defense smothered Roethlisberger and the Dolphins cruised to a methodical 16-3 victory. Recap, let's take a look at the awards or the South round two best performances. We're going to start with the highest scoring teams, and there's two in this one. Both dropped 24 points. It's going to be the 88 49ers and the 99 Rams. Roger Craig late game explosion helped the 88 Niners surge to 24, while Warner's Rams turned a chess match into a fourth quarter stampede. Two teams, two errors, both lighting up the Cotton Bowl scoreboard. Now, let's move on to the most dominant defense. It's going to be the 73 Miami Dolphins. The 73 Dolphins suffocated Pittsburgh from the opening whistle. Roethlisberger never found a rhythm, and Miami's defense held the Steelers to a single field goal in a complete physical dismantling. Now, what about the closest game? Well, the closest game we have is the 2000 Ravens versus the 96 Packers. It was classic Ravens football, grimy, gritty, and punishing. This one came down to who could make a single big play, and it was Jamal Lewis and Matt Stover who delivered a defensive slugfest for the purists in this one. Biggest upset, we got the 2000 Ravens over the 96 Packers, so we're staying in that game. Favre's 96 squad came in with, basically the more dynamic team, but Baltimore bullied them out of the bracket. Jamal Lewis ran wild, and the Ravens' legendary defense closed the door in vintage fashion. Most surprising elimination, it's going to be the 89 49ers. You're talking about Montana, Rice, and one of the most dominant squads ever couldn't get past the 88 49ers. In a shocking early exit for a team many had penciled in for the semifinals, including myself. I thought this was a team that was going to really take it deep, especially with Montana. Montana was really firing in 89. That looked like one of the better teams on paper that I thought was going to go real deep. Uh, Now moving on to the Grandstand Sports Day to get your popcorn ready moment. It's going to be Roger Craig. This guy busting open 2 touchdowns in the final 90 seconds of the game. Craig's back-to-back scores to seal the win for the 88 Niners was pure drama. You couldn't write a crazier ending. Definitely a jaw dropper for anyone watching this bracket unfold. And that was the Celts' best performances. Let's move on to the round 3 preview. So we're down to 4 in the South, and every matchup is going to be a clash of identities. And what do you mean by that? Start with the first matchup. It's going to be the 2000 Ravens versus the 88 Niners. Ray Lewis and that historically stingy Ravens defense just clamped far in the 96 Packers. But now they face Montana, fresh off dismantling his own 89 squad. It's a defense fortress versus a West Coast scalpel. Will physicality break precision, or will Montana surgically carve up the purple wall? Now, let's move on to the next matchup. That's going to be the 99 Rams versus the 73 Dolphins. You got the greatest show on turf meets football's original grinders. Warner, Falk, Bruce, and Torrey Holt want track meet numbers, but Zonka and the 73 Dolphins want trench warfare. It's style versus substance, flash versus force. You couldn't design a better football culture clash in this bracket. And that wraps up round 2. And if you're still with us, you're a real one, but we're just going to get started here. Now is your moment to jump in. Subscribe so you don't miss round 3. Then drop a like if you like this concept. So if you want to see other sports and anything like that, drop a like just to notify us that this is the content that you want to see. Also, comment down below on who you think will take the whole tournament. And hey, share this with a friend who still thinks the 85 Bears were going to be untouchable. In the next episode, we're going to dive into round 3. We'll also preview the regional finals because that's what it will come down to. Want you guys to stay sharp, stay tuned, and then we'll see you guys in the next one.